Yo, you are listening to Mailbag Monday by the Money Matters podcast. Welcome back. I'm your host, Jack. You are joined full staff with my father, Bill, and my chief of staff, Dylan. Gentlemen, how are we?
Excellent.
Love it. Love it. Real quick, we've got some important stuff to discuss. We don't have any sponsors. We've been in this space for over a decade. We produce this podcast by ourselves. We do it because we like Bitcoin a lot. We believe in Bitcoin. We believe in what it means to the world. And we think there needs to be a space for weekly shoot the shit conversation on your commute to work, on your commute home, while you're at the gym. Some Bitcoiners that have been around the block once or twice or 10 years of time and talking about money and why it matters and Bitcoin's relevance to it. So no one influences our opinion. If you do want to support us, here's my Strike El Salvador shirt I got on. You can do your Bitcoin stuff on Strike. We're got to be one of the best in the world at Bitcoin at this point. We just launched Europe. But outside of that, this is just us, our natural selves, hanging out. We've been doing this for a long time, these conversations, usually over FaceTime. But now we record them and we upload them to YouTube. So anyway, appreciate the support. And with that, we're not going to go to dollar bill first. We're going to talk about the Samourai Wallet founders' arrests. We're going to talk about the Phoenix Wallet removing themselves from the App Store and the overall concern around privacy, self-custody, and overreaching regulation in the Bitcoin industry. I may rant for a little bit, so excuse me for that. But there's just a lot to cover. I think first and foremost, I've never been a fan of locking humans in a box as a form of punishment. To me, it's violent, whether you're government or not. Putting a gun to someone's head and locking them in a box is violent, and I'm not a fan of it for anyone, period. So it's sad to see, it sucks to see any human be violently thrown in a box and locked in a cell, deprived of relationship, food, everything sucks, period. Secondly, privacy is a human right, in my opinion. Privacy, especially in a digital society, is foundational. We need to have the ability to select which parts of ourselves are available to the world. And without that, I don't believe that society is going to be able to function in a healthy way that allows for human flourishing. So things like freedom of speech and things like privacy have been a constant battle in the internet age, and we're likely seeing it again. And so it shouldn't have to be said out loud, unfortunately, but the reality is here we are. We need privacy in our speech. We need privacy in our transactions and in our monetary movement, period. That's just a point blank period, no matter who you are, where you are, that's just a fact. And so any attack on privacy is one that shouldn't be stood for by anyone, any group, any of us. And any violent gun to the head, get thrown in a box, in my opinion, is just one of the worst chapters of humanity that's what we've resulted to as government, to punish bad behavior. Okay. Do you guys have any comments on any of that before I move on?
Nope.
No, just that I agree.
Now on to, I think, some of the nuance in the follow-up. So for those that aren't aware, Samourai Wallet founders were arrested and the service was shut down. It was a non-custodial mixing service that allowed users to mix their Bitcoin transactions in an effort for increased enhanced privacy. Since then, there was also a PSA published by the FBI here in America that casted doubt on consumers using non-custodial, I think it was non-custodial Bitcoin services or Bitcoin services that aren't registered as an MSB. The combination of those two events has then caused what seems to be a chilling effect that resulted in other Bitcoin services leaving America. So the Phoenix wallet, one of the better, in my opinion, non-custodial Bitcoin Lightning wallets, has delisted their app from the App Store and will no longer serve Americans. I think Wasabi, another mixer, another non-custodial Bitcoin mixing service, they will no longer serve Americans. And there's now even new language from the Biden administration, and I believe Senator Warren potentially, that states the definition of money transmitting in Section 1960 does not require the money transmitter to have control of the funds being transferred. So now seems to be an even bigger overreach as to what a money transmitter is. They don't have to have the funds to consider to be a money transmitter. Then maybe your frying pan is a money transmitter, or your washing machine is a money transmitter. If they don't have to actually hold the money, then it becomes incredibly unclear what a money transmitter is, which leaves everyone fearful that they could be a money transmitter and they could be thrown in jail, gun to the head, locked in a box. Okay, I want to give a little bit of my 2 cents on this. Because I'm a little all over the place on how I feel. First and foremost, on the Samourai case, neither of the 2 charges that were brought to the founders have anything to do with self-custody. And before I say, maybe I should have given a disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, not my company. I am a guy shooting the shit with his best friend and my dad on a Sunday talking about Bitcoin. These aren't legal opinions. I'm not a lawyer. I am not representing Strike. I'm trying to be part of the conversation and contribute my thoughts. As far as I'm concerned, neither of the 2 charges that were brought to the Samourai founders have anything to do with self-custody. The charges are to the individuals with the conspiracy to commit money laundering based on what the DOJ is claiming to be a self-admission by the 2 founders. The Department of Justice is claiming that these guys self-admitted that they were helping people launder money, and they brought money laundering charges to the individuals. Now, no opinion on those charges themselves, but I just want to make it clear, in my opinion, that's distinctly different than attacking self-custody. Because I'm personally not sold that there's an impending crackdown on self-custody in the United States of America. I know this because I do run and I founded a regulated financial institution that allows people to buy and sell Bitcoin in the United States of America. I am a money service business. I do have money transmitter licenses. I am a money transmitter. So I happen to know some of this stuff. The government has an opinion on this that's very public. The government's opinion states non-custodial wallets, and this is their own language, aren't subject to financial regulation because they don't constitute commercial activity and therefore can't be regulated under law. In my opinion, any attempt to actually regulate them is likely protected by the First Amendment. Now, that is where you can get a little bit speculative and how the judicial court system is set up. But the government, the United States government has an opinion. It's public. And if you want to sell Bitcoin in the United States of America, you go through this process of registering as an MSB, getting your MTLs, and becoming familiar with this. And it is very public and supported that self-custody wallets in the United States of America are fine. And it's known too that Bitcoin is text. I mean, banning self-custody wallets would be banning 12 words in my head. So now you're violating things like freedom of speech. And so when I saw the Samourai case and knowing what I know about the government's open public opinion about self-custody, I just wanted to make the delineation that the Department of Justice is going after these 2 individuals for supposedly owning a self-admission of money laundering, I guess, is the accusation. There's nothing to do with self-custody. So I think, for one, because the chilling effect is real, and I'll talk about it in a second. one of the bigger threats to Bitcoin is we're losing developers. People don't want to work on it anymore. And I'll get to that in a second. So there is a chilling effect, but I want to hopefully dive into the nuance. I think there's a lot of panic. There's a lot of emotion. And no, I haven't seen a lot of conversation around some of the critical elements that help us actually sift through and make decisions that require critical thinking and evaluating certain nuance and detail. Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the Lightning Network piece. Now, FinCEN does give direction on the self-custody piece. So that is, if you are holding Bitcoin in cold storage and you're holding your private keys, according to the US government, you are fine. There is no way they're going to regulate you. And that is almost down to the First Amendment, almost down to things like freedom of speech, because that could be 12 words in your brain. Now, the potential tricky part, potential is what the government refers to as quote unquote smart contracts. And for this topic, I'm talking about Lightning, like a Lightning node. FinCEN has not given explicit direction on smart contracts. And by the way, guys, this is way before the Samourai case. It's been years. I mean, I don't know, Cookie, if you're listening, it's been years when it's like, is a Lightning node a money transmitter? Yeah. I remember having this conversation and advising regulators and sitting down and meeting with state regulators in 2019, maybe, is that FinCEN and the US government have been very clear that self-custody Bitcoin is a foundational human right and it cannot be regulated. That's clear. What's unclear forever is this quote unquote smart contract piece. To date, the whole industry has taken the position that running a Lightning node is like running software. That's the same position that Spotify takes, right? The reason that you can go on Spotify and buy an album from Drake and not have to KYC is Spotify takes the position that we're just running software. Now, that's the same position that Lightning node runners take. They're never in full custody of the funds. We treat it as peer-to-peer transactions. It's just running open source software. Now, if that conversation is going to change and FinCEN is going to try and get aggressive and regulate smart contracts, now that is potentially something that we as an industry are going to have to defend and educate and lobby and fight. That hasn't happened. I just want to make that super clear. FinCEN rarely, if ever, overreaches without clear direction, if ever. Now, is the Biden administration, and we should talk about the Biden administration, at this point, if that guy gets elected, no one's going to be owning or working on Bitcoin in this country. We're all leaving. Is the Biden administration going to overreach over FinCEN and start putting guns to people's head and throwing them in boxes? I doubt it. Again, guys, the Samourai founders have nothing to do with self-custody, has nothing to do with Lightning nodes. It has everything to do with conspiracy to commit money laundering. So as far as I know, no one has, but I could be off, like as far as Lightning and stuff. FinCEN hasn't given this direction. We still don't know. Because they haven't given the direction, it's very unlikely that there's going to be an overnight gun to your head jail. But I will say, you know, we see clarity on it. We talk to regulators all the time. I mean, the whole space has been actively trying to advocate for the fact that this is just running software. And if the government could acknowledge that, it would allow the space to move forward. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. I guess I'll pause real quick because I have one more topic. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Because the last topic for me is just the chilling effect that I think this is causing. So in my opinion, one of the greater threats to Bitcoin is the decrease in developers working on it. Put yourself in the shoes of a developer that works on Bitcoin. First of all, you do countless hours of thankless work. You don't get a bonus for maintaining the Bitcoin Core repository or for managing the Bitcoin improvement proposal process or for maintaining the Bitcoin mailing list. your company doesn't get to go public. You don't get equity. You don't get vacation days. So it's thankless work. You get sued by Craig Wright so that you're poor and in constant lawsuits, in constant court. The Bitcoin community is constantly threatening you and saying you are attacking Bitcoin. Imagine waking up, casually working on Bitcoin as an open source developer because you believe it's going to help humanity, and going on the internet and going on Twitter and seeing people that don't know what they're talking about saying that you're attacking Bitcoin and you need to never write another line of code again and you should go fuck yourself. And then on top of that, now seeing people getting arrested and potential uncertainty about running the software that you're working on. So it's thankless work. The people that use your software and that have made over $1 trillion of wealth in your software sometimes mistaken you as attacking the network. You get sued to oblivion and taken to court by psychopaths like Craig Wright. And then you watch other people get thrown in jail with guns to their head and the rules aren't clear. And so the chilling effect is real. I know Bitcoin developers that are gone. They're never coming back. And so for all the talk of like, we need funding, honestly, a lot of my advocacy for developers is to just, someone's got to like have their back, you know, like someone's got to come out and say, these people are important and we value them. And without an open source development community, we as an open source project would fail, and we have their back. And anything Strike can do and I can do when it comes to legal, lawyers, talking to regulators and finding some comfort so that these people can just contribute in peace and have a sane life. Again, it's not like, I mean, I go through my own shit, but I have a business and there's a risk reward to what I'm doing on. I'm an entrepreneur. These people aren't entrepreneurs. They want to just write text and contribute to a project that they're passionate about. And so the chilling effect is very real. So for Phoenix to leave the United States of America, again, I tweeted at them and I was curious why exactly they left. Because if someone like FinCEN, if a regulator reached out to Phoenix Wallet and said, you guys should leave America because we are about to regulate smart contracts and we think a Lightning node is a smart contract, that's huge news. And I would love to know that. I would then love to, you know, Strike, I would call Dorsey, we'd get involved in that conversation at a very serious level with the regulators. If they're just a little intimidated by all that's going on, that's totally reasonable. I mean, people can do whatever the fuck they want. You want to serve Americans, you don't want to serve Americans, your decision. The difference is big because as far as I'm concerned, all that happened is two samurai guys got accused of committing money laundering. And outside of that, self-custody is still fine in the United States of America, and there's ambiguity around smart contracts. There's always has been, and Biden's administration is overreaching everywhere. Biden's administration is overreaching in taxing. He wants to double capital gains tax and introduce unrealized cap gains tax. He's overreaching everywhere. So Biden's overreaching, self-custody's fine. Two guys may or may not have committed money laundering, and the Department of Justice is accusing them of such. I don't know. As a long rant, there's no real end. That's kind of what I think we got to talk about some of the nuance, though, in all of this, because the notion that America is attacking Bitcoin, maybe, but like someone point me to where or how. Or like what we should, because I don't know, I'm the CEO of Strike. I'm ready to go to war. I got resources. I'm ready to battle. But it's kind of like, for what? What should I wake up tomorrow? Monday morning is tomorrow. I'm recording this on Sunday. Wake up tomorrow. What should I do? Obviously, the Department of Justice is accusing someone of conspiracy to commit money laundering. I mean, I can't be involved in that case. That seems to be entirely dependent on the individuals, right? I mean, I could support and help in other ways, but that has nothing to do with the Lightning Network or self-custody. As far as self-custody, the government's opinion is public. Self-custody is fine. It's totally legal. It's freedom of speech, First Amendment. As far as smart contracts, it's always been a thing. Anyway, I'll stop talking. What do you guys think of everything I just said?
I think that
What do you think?
making money private by default should be the rule and not the exception. And I think that what scares me about the Samourai prosecution is it seems like the DOJ, the powers that be, the alphabet soup that controls our rules and regulations, seems like they're planting a flag on the side of making money private by default is not only not a rule or an exception, it's a crime. And I find that precedent to be extremely dangerous. Samourai provides privacy for users. They also make it easy to obscure the origins of funds, and it seems like they're getting slammed for the latter of that. They're getting slammed because they intentionally, knowingly, potentially solicited bad actors in promoting a product that can obscure the origins of funds. But you don't get both sides when it comes to privacy. It's either private and the source of funds are obscured, or it's not, and you can track everything. And so for me, I just find the precedent to be extremely dangerous and far-reaching. I understand that based on what I read, it seems like these two were acting in a very egregious and antagonistic way. They weren't silent about what they were doing, who they were doing, who their target market was. But at the end of the day, you don't get privacy. You don't get diet privacy. You have it one way or you don't have it at all. And so for me, it's just a dangerous precedent to set, because I'm staunchly and firmly believe that making money private should be the default. Those are my sort of high level thoughts on this. So
I don't know, but does that contradict anything I said? I think that is the thing I'm confused about is I don't know if I can't tell what's going on. And I texted Odell. I can't tell. If you read the Department of Justice, they're citing social media messages in the lawsuit. The lawsuit claims like these guys told us that they were money laundering for Russian oligarchs or something like that. What I can't tell is that an attack on privacy? Maybe. Because I agree with you. Money should be private by default. No one, as I said earlier, should have to wake up to a gun to their head, be thrown in a box, especially if it's a non-custodial service that allows people to enhance privacy for their money and privacy on the internet. But I don't know if that's what the accusation is. But I don't know, maybe it's the wrong group to talk about it because none of us are lawyers either. But I just don't know. But I agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, on the topic of money laundering, like I understand. Again, these two individuals, I believe, based on what I've read, were acting in a very flamboyant and antagonistic way. They basically were saying, come and get us. We're doing bad shit, and we're not hiding it whatsoever. Where is the prosecution for banks? Where is the prosecution for the largest money launderers on the planet, which by my account has been banks by dollar volume? The Samourai people, allegedly laundered $2 billion of funds. I mean, cartel money's running through bank, right? Like, I don't know. It seems fucking crazy to me that all of a sudden, these two individuals do it, and they're facing 20 years behind bars. Probably woke up with assault rifles in their face, raided, arrested, seized, whatever. They're in a box now. Where if that's the side that we're gonna choose, where's the prosecution for banks, for the largest money launderers on the planet? Again, you just don't get it both ways. It's bullshit to me. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to answer that. If you thought that there's going to be prosecution against banks, you must have been born yesterday. If they wanted to prosecute banks, they could have thrown Jamie Dimon in jail, I don't know, 1,000 times over the last decade, if they wanted to. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just trying to find the nuance in here, because sometimes I'll go on the internet and it's like, they're coming at America is about to ban self-custody. And I'm like, are they? I'm struggling to parse through it all. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Diamond banked Epstein, and Samurai guys were running a non-custodial financial service. And
To your point, what the fuck does banning self-custody actually mean in practice? You can't do that. How can they ban 12 words in my head?
but this is the problem I have, and it might be unpopular on Twitter and stuff. They aren't. I'm a money service business in America. So all of the like, talk about money transmitters, I am one. And so I know the rules. They aren't. So that's why I'm confused. I'm just confused. I'm just really super confused. I mean, it sucks what is unfolding, but I think there's just a lot of emotion, and I'm really confused. Why isn't Jamie Dimon in jail? Great question. He money laundered to facilitate sexual child abuse, right? He banked Epstein. Okay, so he laundered money and allowed for kids to be sexually abused. Why isn't he in jail versus people that launched a non-custodial financial platform to enhance privacy? I mean, it's a fucked up world that we're living in. That's the reality of the situation. But does that mean that my cold storage wallet is going to get me 20 years in prison? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to just sift through what's going on here. Self-custody in America is pretty well protected as far as I'm concerned. And FinCEN has not given opinion on smart contracts. Now, Biden's the president of the country. He can do whatever he wants. And so his overreach knows no bounds. If that administration is going to go start attacking smart contracts and start attacking the definition of money transmitter, then yeah, then we're at war. No doubt about it. But I don't know. Seems to be like a lot of emotion. And I'm just trying to understand the facts, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I have any. I don't know.
Do you have any speculative opinion on why Phoenix pulled out? I mean, putting yourself in their shoes.
No, the chilling effect. I mean, I asked. No one's given me an answer. I assume the chilling effect.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see any indication as to why that would have happened or what caused them to leave, but I haven't been able to find any sense of clarity. So
I assume they're just scared. I assume it's unclear. Oh, I got Siri listening to my conversations. I assume that they're scared and the rules are unclear and that they deem the risk not worth the reward. I don't know. Maybe they don't have that many American customers. Maybe they got a legal opinion. Maybe a regulator did reach out to them. I have no idea. But I mean, you can't blame them. That it's a terrifying situation. It sucks. I do think the chilling fact is real. And that's the biggest threat, like I said. Like, people that are familiar with the Bitcoin developer community know that developers are leaving Bitcoin and they're never coming back. They've been in lawsuits. They've gotten death threats. The community blames them for threatening and attacking Bitcoin when they're honestly just trying to maintain it and help it be successful. And now people are getting thrown in prison and the FBI is releasing public service announcements. The chilling effect's real. But like I said, no one should be thrown in jail with a gun to their head. However, the Samurai case seems to be about a conspiracy to money launder, not self-custody, not money transmission. Self-custody in America seems to be a government opinion that's public and supported. The smart contract one has always been nuanced there. FinCEN hasn't given an opinion on it. So there's no new updates on that. However, except the Biden administration. Supposedly the Biden administration has begun in this election year incredible amounts of overreach, but it's not even specifically to money transmission. I mean, their overreach in money transmission, saying a money transmitter doesn't technically need to own the money ever. I mean, that's the same thing as unrealized cap gains. It's as ridiculous to me. Like, what does that mean? Like, the money transmitter doesn't actually ever need to have control of the money. Then what's the definition of it? Like, a football player doesn't actually ever have to step on the field. Like, okay, so am I a football player? What, like, who's a football player? So, but it's the same thing as unrealized cap gains. It's so ludicrous that I don't even believe my eyes. But yeah, I mean, anyway, I guess I'll end it with this. If we are at war and the government is going to start putting guns to everyone's head that has 12 words in their brain, or that is running software, then I'm going to war. I'm the CEO of Strike. We're ready and prepared to fight for this industry. It's not clear to me what that war is, and against who yet. I mean, the Samourai case is super unfortunate, but to my knowledge, it's not a threat yet to self-custody and to running a Lightning node, but we'll see. And privacy is critically important to a functioning society, and we have to fight. We have to fight and win that war or die trying.
Yeah, I mean, look, if self-custody becomes a crime in the United States, I think I'd have to opt out. I don't think I live here any longer.
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, if the government were to actually try and regulate it, I think it would go. I mean, the First Amendment would protect it. If we start violating the First Amendment and we're no longer the United States of America, then it's a different country.
Yeah. From your perspective as a Bitcoiner, how important do you see this November election cycle? Like, do you think this is as critical as it gets from a Bitcoiner's perspective in terms of who joins office come November?
Yeah. Well, I think my dad's talked about this plenty of times already, but now it's abundantly clear, in my opinion, if Biden wins this election, Bitcoin and this industry, but also probably privacy, but also probably your right to own property because of his opinion on tax and capital gain. So your property rights, your privacy rights, your freedom of speech is a threat. And it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily pro-Trump or pro-Kennedy. It's just a fact at this point. It's a factual observation that your foundational human rights are being threatened by this political party, in my opinion. And as the CEO of Strike, it's in the best interest of my company to have someone in office that supports privacy on the internet, that supports property rights, and that supports technological innovation in this country. And I don't feel as if the Biden administration is supportive, or like Elizabeth Warren. I think it's clear now. And so even if you're a Democrat and a Bitcoiner, I still don't think you can vote Biden.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. Do we have any indication that the other side will be any better?
No, I don't think they will. I think they're all Muppets. But I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think Trump is going to impose or suggest even an unrealized cap gains. I mean, it's even the proposal is enough of a threat. You know, like before we started recording, I was saying it's almost like a shoot for the stars, land on the moon type of strategy. It's like if a 5-year-old went to his dad and say, "Dad, I want $1 billion for my allowance," and then, "Oh, I'll just settle for 100K," right? It's still outrageous, right? You propose what is the utmost extreme just to settle on something that's still extreme, but relative to what you initially proposed looks mild. right? That's what I assume his strategy is. So he proposes unrealized cap gains, which is out of this world, unheard of. And whether that lands or doesn't land or wherever it ends up, he's still doubling the IRS staff, right? So you know where his head's at. You know what I mean? You know where his head's at. He's coming after your wealth. He's coming after your property. He wants your time, energy, and property. He wants the time you spend, the energy you contribute, and the stuff you own. He's coming after all of it. So I don't think the Republican Party traditionally is not that, right? I still think Trump, do I think that Trump is going to protect our privacy? No, he's a Muppet. Do I think Trump's going to double the IRS staff and impose unrealized cap gains? I don't know. I mean, I'm curious your opinion, Dad, but I don't think so. I don't know though. No, I don't. All these people are Muppets in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's suicide.
Exactly.
No, I mean, if you want to influence, behavior with tax policy, obviously tax the hell out of cigarettes, right? A sin tax, gambling, right? A frivolous. But when you start taxing capital formation, I mean, I don't want to try to just, I don't know what the end game of that thought is. And not just increase it, but like, double it. Like I said, it's trying to think of it would have to be almost like when you went to the polls when I was getting out of high school, it was like you can agree or disagree with 8 out of 10 policy stances, but the one thing you were voting on is whether you wanted your kid to go to Vietnam or not, right? It was like a single issue domination. And I don't know if you're in the financial markets, this upcoming one can't be starker. I mean, the current administration wants to double the IRS over a period of 10 years. I mean, this isn't just let's crack down a little bit and clean house on some of these. I mean, this is almost just a nationalization of a brand new financial industry, really, with that degree of IRS involvement. I mean, it's like I said, I'm trying to find an analogy. It's not quite. I don't think your vote has quite the importance it did when the country was in war, but financially, this one's going to have a lot of implications. So I think I agree with what Jack said.
Is there just trying to play devil's advocate here? Is there any merit to the devil in this specific instance? The devil that you do know is better than the one that you don't. Like, we know what Biden's playbook is. We know what's coming if we get another 4 years of that guy. We don't necessarily know what we're going to get with Trump. We can speculate on it. And I think directionally the speculation is correct. But I do think about that sometimes as well. Like, is there something I'm not considering that Trump can or might or has talked about? I don't follow politics very closely, if at all. I follow what is affecting Bitcoin or not from a political perspective. But outside of that, I don't, it's just not my area of expertise or interest. I don't, quite frankly, give a shit about it.
Yes. I mean, if you just in general, yeah, Trump has more autocratic tendencies. Trump is not, consolidating power around somebody like Trump, who doesn't have a lot of patience, right, for laying the groundwork, or at least, developing consensus, right? He's not a consensus developing type of leader, right? So, there's all sorts of red flags about, another Trump presidency. But in my mind, the guy hates the IRS with a visceral hatred of the IRS. That alone, is going to take a lot of the pressure off of, the crypto industry, because that seems to be like, depending where you are, China bans Bitcoin. They just have a strong arm authoritarian ability to toss that industry that this country doesn't, as you know. speech, etc. It's been tested, but they can certainly send the IRS after you enough and have the, in effect, the same chilling effect. That's the way it looks to me. Right. And yeah, we know from experience. No, I feel like I wear this out. I'm probably the only one listening right now that actually remembers the Nixon administration, right? It takes like a full generation for what this administration is doing to fade it. Like what this administration is doing would never have been done under Ford or because Nixon was too fresh in everyone's mind, and the literal almost civil war it took to get him out of the White House was just too fresh in everybody's mind. But like I said, how many guys even listening have direct memories of Nixon's leadership? Probably, guys we've outlived that, so we are at risk of repeating it. And it is nothing. You cut and paste Biden and Warren and Nixon. It's hard to see a whole lot of differences in how they are approaching. And the number one in my mind is weaponizing the IRS. That just never would have happened post Nixon, because that's what Nixon sent the IRS after the Washington Post for harassment. Go ahead, write whatever you want, but you're going to get audited over and over and over again, and that's like I said, almost resulted in a civil war.
Can you tell that story?
We're going to repeat that mistake again.
I wasn't alive. Well, so let me preface with, there's been a lot of talk about how the 1970s inflation looks, we may be reliving the 70s right now in this decade on inflation and the amount of stimulus to the dollar. I'm lesser familiar with what you're talking about, because maybe we're reliving the whole 70s all over again, not only inflation, but also in IRS overreach and political overreach. Can you tell that story? I wasn't alive.
Oh, I know. I mean, I think the best takeaway from All the President's Men is there's a final scene where the cover up on is unraveling. They were bugging a political opposition at the Watergate Hotel, but the chilling part is as that unravels, is that final scene where like they did this at the Senate level. They've done it here. This is just the way they operate. This is not. Don't think that this was some rogue criminal element that can be eliminated. This is cultural. This is simply the way that administration operated. And the way this administration operates on a nascent industry that is by if you can't make it illegal, if Nixon could have made the Washington Post illegal, he would have. He couldn't, so he just used the IRS. He weaponized the IRS, and I mean that's the similarity. And it's scary.
Yeah.
Like I said, cut and paste, the players in Nixon's administration with the Genslers and Warrens that you're seeing in Biden's administration. There's not much of a difference. Right? They, China bans Bitcoin. If, Liz Warren could ban Bitcoin, I'm sure she would, but that's so like I said, when you can't do that, you weaponize the IRS. I think this has got to have I see that if that's correct, then the solution is only at the ballot box.
So, I was born in 94, and you grow up like liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and you learn about the founding fathers and what America was built on, and democracy and freedom and equality and the American dream. I haven't seen it because one of my youngest memories was 9/11. I remember getting taken out of, maybe it was second grade or something, when the plane hit the towers. And then since then, it's just been a lot of war. And it's been war since I can remember. And so I guess my question is, has the America that, like, have we ever been in a place where government was freedom focused and cared about privacy and these type of things? Or because I haven't seen it while I've been alive, but like if you were to ask government like why I haven't seen the America that I was told about in history, it's because, well, terrorists are attacking us or something, and we're Putin and this and that, and we need to constantly be bombing and inflating your currency. It's not our fault, it's their fault. But some mind that isn't maybe invested in understanding and validating for themselves may go, yeah, I mean, what do you want to do about it? America's got to defend itself. But have you seen the America that I was raised to? Do you guys understand my question? Like, what? Or has that version of America never actually exists? Like America is just a scam.
I think no, I wish you guys could have spent some time in the financial markets during the 1980s. It was just a completely different feel. There was not, I never felt I was like in partnership with regulators to the extent that I'm not a 50-50 partner if I'm trying to build a business or make money. And like I said, it at times doesn't even seem to be the taxation as much as the surveillance, which is frightening. I mean, I don't know. The amount of time this government has spent auditing members of this industry is not cheap or free. I mean, like I said, you have a major 10-year expansion plan of the IRS to integrate in. That's nothing like what the 80s were. Nothing. In financial markets. No, I'm sure there were other, like I said, I barely missed selective service. You guys don't have that problem anymore, but we were down to drafting people on depending on their birth dates. So there are areas where dealing with this with federal government is better, but not in financial markets, night and day.
How would you like to see Bitcoin play out? Or how do you think it's gonna, I don't know. What do you think is gonna happen?
In terms of what? Price or?
No, it just seems there's like an active threat.
It seems to be that with Fidelities and BlackRocks and the several politicians who take it, and whether it's Jared Polis or Vivek Ramaswamy or something, it's more and more integrated into traditional finance and as well as politics. I don't think the fears that we had years ago, the China bans Bitcoin and stuff, I think that ship has sailed. And I think ETFs are a big part of that. Politicians are not going to want to ban something that their voters are participating in through their Fidelity 401k accounts, right? I mean, so that's a good protection. Presidential candidates that actually have wrote a white paper, that's shocking. It is 9 pages. We're getting there. But yeah. I mean, who cares? Who cares what the government thinks about? That is presumably why the cypherpunks never use their real names on any of this stuff. As you said, if so, Satoshi'd be arrested by now. A peer-to-peer, no choke points, or they would have done it. I'm fine. I think now that, like I said, now that you got major players like BlackRocks and Fidelities and political candidates, I think we're pretty safe in this country.
What do you make of Biden administration then? Like, is this just what I don't understand? Is this just like a one-off, like really awful administration that's going to go down in history as the worst administration in the history of America? Or is this bigger than that, and all administration is going to come for property rights and come for your privacy rights and come for because of the reasoning that has any legs to actually have a conversation on top of is because of the deficits, because of the predicament the United States is. It does seem like there's reason to believe could be fall of an empire type of era, which as an American, I'm cool with that. Like, if we're not the biggest, baddest, greatest in the world at everything, so what? Like, we'll be good at what we're good at, and people will live the lives that they have a right to live. But it seems that there are like people in power that feel threatened, and then people get violent. And if they are reluctant to relieve the power, right? Like, do you think that if a new administration comes in that's better, then we'll just look back and be like, wow, can't believe we had 4 years of that administration? Or do you think this is like a persistent problem that we'll continue to have?
Oh, I mean, like your whole generation, like I said, do you know anybody that supports what this current administration's foreign policy is doing, what the current administration's tax policies towards the cryptocurrency industry? I mean, you guys tell me. We're all old and retired. I think the more election cycles that go on, the more your generation replaces my generation. I think that Biden will be viewed as just a mistake, a one-term mistake, and that younger, more energetic politicians are. I mean, that's one of the reasons they don't want Biden debating anybody, even within his own party, is you don't really want him standing next to guys like Vivek or Jared Polis and stuff. Those are energetic and more relatable to your generation. I think this is the one and done.
Well, they also have the unique ability of completing a full sentence when they speak.
Yeah, I mean, I might not be the perfect representative of my generation. Maybe, I'm not sure. But I just think they're all Muppets. Like, I mean, the way we solve a lot of these problems is with software and working on things like Bitcoin. Politicians don't really solve problems. I consider the president to be the biggest chief marketing officer position in the world. That's what they are, though. They don't. So I don't know. I'm kind of just curious. The reason I asked about like America before I was born, before the America I know is 9/11 and Putin and whatever, and it's just war, inflation, but it's never our fault. We just want peace. And that's the America I know. But has there ever been an America that was not inflating and not at war, right? And not bombing people and stuff? And is there an administration that is good, or is everyone just a Muppet and we have to work on Bitcoin because we use incorruptible software to fix our problems?
I think we have to look at the 4 years, or after these next 4 years. I think we have to look at that, because we know both of these guys. It's Trump for the next 4 years or Biden for the next 4 years. But after that, that's where I get like intellectually a little bit curious. Because if that's not, if those two aren't controlling the conversation, then who's in it? I don't actually know the answer to that question. You have Vivek's, right? But like on the Democratic side, I have no idea who that would be. I also think an interesting and timely tidbit is that I believe as of yesterday, Biden has the lowest approval rating of any president in the past 70 years. Very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, this is why I don't vote. Or I've never voted. This is why I just work on Bitcoin.
Either, yeah.
Yeah. It's useless. Just work on Bitcoin. Is the best vote, really. Okay. Yeah, weird week in Bitcoin, weird episode. A lot of emotion out there. I would say, what do you guys think? I would say maybe, I know we have one Q&A question, Dylan, and then do dollar bill, end it with dollar bill, or dollar bill now, end it with Q&A. What do you think?
Now let's go Q&A and end it with some market analysis, because I think the question that we have is a little bit relevant to the conversation that we've been having.
Yeah.
Got a question from Matt here. Matt asks, do you think every wallet should be custodial? Why does Strike KYC? A little harder.
Strike KYCs because we are a regulated financial institution, not only in America, but we're in Europe now. We are in a lot of Latin America, Africa, got a product in Australia. Ever since Strike was founded, we allow customers to buy and sell Bitcoin for fiat currency. And that's always been interfacing with banks and with local fiat currency. That's always a regulated field, no matter who you are. And so we as a company, we're a financial services firm, and we've been regulated since day one. And as part of those rules, we have to enforce know your customer. That's just the reality of the situation. I don't think it's for everyone. If you don't want to use something like Strike or something like Cash App, I would just recommend you don't use it. But I do believe, obviously I founded it, I do believe that financial service providers on top of Bitcoin are useful. We build products that customers love, and we build technology on top of Bitcoin that, in my opinion, extends its functionality to help deliver value and disrupt existing industries. And we charge money for that, and we make money. And so I think that building a company on top of Bitcoin that's a financial service provider is useful. It comes with regulation and with rules. It doesn't mean it's for everyone. As far as custodial, so Strike is custodial. So when you have Bitcoin on Strike, we have the keys. Last time I checked, I think around 90% of Bitcoin purchase on Strike is withdrawn to cold storage or taken off the platform, I'll say. I don't know where it's going, but it's not with us. We support that. We encourage that. We build a lot of tools to make that easy for you. But if you do keep it on Strike, we have the keys. I don't think everything needs to be custodial. In fact, that'd be awful. I'm a huge proponent. I've almost worn my own self out of how much I say it. I'm a big proponent of the open network. I believe strongly that Bitcoin, one of its advantages is that it's an open, permissionless network and anyone can join in. And so it's critical that there are a lot of non-custodial wallets and services and ways to use Bitcoin where you hold your own keys. Strike is a custodial solution. I use, for example, both. I use, Phoenix. Well, I guess I did Phoenix and Moon Wallet, and I've used Samourai before. And I also use Strike, and each service provides a different function. But I don't know. I mean, like in my opinion, financial service providers aren't inherently bad. I think the fractional reserve, everyone gets a bailout is bad. But in Bitcoin, there's no bailouts, and it's an open network. And so you get to elect who you do your financial services with. But I think financial service providers are great. Like, I don't want to have to issue myself my own credit card. I'm really thankful that someone issued me a credit card so that I can go spend at the grocery store, and that financial service I actually enjoy and use. It would suck if I had to do that myself. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question. We are a centralized financial service provider. We build tools for customers on top of Bitcoin. It requires KYC. It has since day one, but it is only valuable in certain ways to certain people, not maybe to everyone.
Fair enough.
But if Bitcoin were to only be KYC custodial services, we'd be screwed. So we as a business spend a lot of time and sometimes money lobbying and fighting and funding non-custodial open source efforts, because the open network part is crucial. Without it, Bitcoin's not going to be successful. Okay. Were there any other questions we had, or? Okay, dollar bill. Given all of people getting arrested and FBI putting up PSAs, a lot of nasty aggression from the government. What do you think this means for the Bitcoin market?
Oh, the regulatory part, I like your answer, and that's where you guys live. I don't think I'm really a good resource for interfacing what that's just, it's too bad that small businesses have to battle regulators. No, from my market outlook is kind of a broken record. I feel like I'm saying the same thing, but here we go again. The Dow at 38,002 is 12% higher than it was a year ago at 34,000. Gold is 15% higher. It was a little under 2,000, is now a little over 2,300. Real estate is up 8% on the Case-Shiller index from 290 to 310. Those are three very different markets with different fundamentals, different demographics, different tax treatment. Real estate, precious metals, and the stock market yet are all up 10, 12%. I think are all just expressions of dollar debasement. I think you are in an economy with so much indebtedness that 2 quarter hikes, trip bank insolvencies, and you want to throw an election year in along with that. I think that your monetary authorities are going to tolerate a little bit of price inflation, and the fastest horse so you gotta, whether it's stocks, precious metals, real estate, Bitcoin has been the fastest horse. I don't see any reason for that to change. I'm trading from the long side. You can ask Cookie. I don't believe I've even logged into my trading account. It is an extension of my cold storage. It really is. It is. It's just that's all. That's another one of my themes is people make speculation harder than it has to be. In a world where every asset market is up, 8%, 12%, 15%, or in Bitcoin's case, 100% year over year. Don't make it any harder than it has to be. Get long, get paid.
Yep, I agree.
So it is surprising how difficult people make, and I know there are people are like, aren't you concerned about a relative strength index or a sentiment indicators or this moving average crossing that moving average? And I broadly put all that stuff into making it harder than it needs to be. Where was it 3 months ago? Where was it 3 months prior to that? Okay, so it's going up. Markets tend to trend. Currency markets have the self-reinforcing aspects that help markets trend. I've always felt currency markets display that feedback more strongly than other asset markets for different reasons. But if I can just state it and not support it, you're looking at a dollar debasement story, and you're looking at every asset market trending in the right direction. I think currency markets their trends tend to be more powerful. So yeah, get long, get paid. You guys are going to get tired of hearing me say that, but I would say the canary in the coal mine of what I just said would be gold, because there's plenty of it. Bitcoin goes through halvings, right? We get less new supply. Gold, you get the price of gold high, you find lots of new supply. And the fact that gold is up 15% year over year, like I say, if there's a canary in my asset reflation coal mine, I would be concerned if gold falls out of the bottom end of that range. If gold falls below 2,000, then I would start rethinking whether my liquidity, trade everything from the long side thesis. I would be a little concerned if any of these markets rolled over, but gold would be the particular one. Because it's hard to rally. Gold's up 50% year over year. That's a hard thing to do for an asset where there's plenty of it, no yield. You gotta, so I think that's probably the strongest indicator of my inflation argument.
Right.
So if we're on this show, in the coming months and gold fell out of that range, yeah, then I would rethink it. But right now, I'm just trading everything from the long side.
I think you're right. And what's interesting, our viewers aren't going to be, or our listeners, excuse me, aren't going to be able to see this. I'm going to try and pull up a gold Bitcoin chart. So if you're listening, I'll voice it over. But if you're on YouTube and you're viewing, you'll be able to see. Can you guys see this chart I just pulled up here?
Yep.
We don't have to see. It depends how far you go back. But if you price anything in Bitcoin, it's going to look like this.
Yeah. Well,
Bitcoin was a penny for a couple of years, right? Anything priced in Bitcoin looks silly, but
yeah, this chart is, so this only goes back to January. This is Bitcoin and gold. So this is XAU USD in the white line and XBT USD in the yellow. And what it shows me is that they trend similarly. So they're both expressing dollar debasement, like my dad was just saying, but Bitcoin is the faster horse, right? So the yellow just seems to climb higher than the white because it's scarcer, it's harder, and it's the faster horse. But they both directionally say dollar debasement, inflation, deficit, global debt to GDP. And then this weird break here on the very far right, where in the beginnings of April, gold continued to directionally trend and Bitcoin took a break and a pause. To me, it says the same thing. I arrived at the same conclusion, Dad, where this to me is like Bitcoin people just have to pay taxes and Bitcoin's gonna rally through the white in the next month or two, or the white's gonna have to come down. But they don't live directionally oppositely, I guess, So you kind of saw some of this on the left, is that the yellow was a little below. So if you look at the end of January, the yellow was below the white, and then the yellow ends up catching up. And because maybe the yellow's below the white because Silbert has to sell his coins, or the yellow's below the white because FTX is liquidating their shit. Like Bitcoin's just such a younger industry with a lot more drama and nuance, and it's not nearly as big. But then as soon as the gold line is clear for takeoff, it shoots way out, it outreaches white. So that's my expectation. For all those that can see the screen, is that Bitcoin and gold have decoupled, but whenever they do this, it usually means some like immature story within Bitcoin, like Bitcoin holders have to pay taxes, or Barry Silbert selling a lot of coins, or the government's gonna auction shit off or something. And then
not living right, seizures and liquidations. I mean, Mt. Gox,
yeah,
hack and liquidation, but yeah, government seizures. Didn't the government just move? All the government had to do was move coins onto an exchange, and the market had a sharp correction. I don't know, for what it's worth, the best trade I think I've seen since in my career of Bitcoin was Draper buying.
yeah.
And, I mean, he bought a ton of 600, 650s,
Yep.
and a lot of it. And that, I mean, that's, he bought. So yes, government liquidation is going to weigh on the market, but the best, I mean, those have tended to be great buys.
Yeah. So I think and you have to ask yourself, do I think white is going to come down and meet yellow? Like, is Bitcoin leading indicator, or do I think yellow is going to go back up and blast through white? And it's a question of, do you think the dollar debasement thing is real or not? Because that's what gold is telling you. And I do think it's real. So I think yellow is going to have to go meet white. So now is the time. I don't know. Bitcoin could go lower, to my dad's point. I don't know if this is the bottom, but I do think that yellow is going to have to meet white. So if you're looking to build a position in Bitcoin, get long and get paid, as Dad said. Cool. Well, that was fun. Yeah, for the listeners, hopefully you guys can check it out on YouTube. I was sharing this chart.
And if you are worried, or you do want to take some protection, I think an interesting trade would, and I have not done this, but an interesting trade, if you and also you don't want to avoid the tax liability that you've got in your crypto, is sell gold against it. I mean, you just leg into a long crypto short gold position, because I like I said, if gold lifts the highs, right, and trades north of 2,300, Bitcoin's going to be. I think Bitcoin will well outperform. So I would not mind having, you know, a nominal short position in gold as long, you know, as spread against my long Bitcoin. You kind of leg into that spread might be one way to take some profits, or just take some profits and pay taxes. I mean, that's unfortunate.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think long Bitcoin, short gold is a generational trade. If you can hold that position your whole life, I agree with that.
For exposure, somebody's going to double the price of gold. What do you think the price of Bitcoin will be?
Yeah, 100%.
If you guys base this currency badly enough to get someone to pay all-time high for gold, then, you know, like I said, Bitcoin's just got a completely different supply story, right? There's just not it, right? It is, you know, new supply gets halved. Gold, new supply, you know, has no limits. I don't know if there is even a decent limit for how much gold we could uncover. If somebody wants to get the price of it up to 5,000, how much gold out there is there?
Yeah.
Not a store of value, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm trading from the long side, and if you do want to take profits, I would sell either precious metals or stocks against your Bitcoin position. That would be a nice way to take a little profit. Agree.
Cool. And you've been scarily accurate in your dollar bill segment. So we'll see how this one pans out.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you're the superstar of the show. It's not even me. I'm passing on compliments. If you read the comments, Jack's dad is the superstar, which is cool for me to see, honestly. And I appreciate you guys recognizing him, because I've known that for my whole life, but he's always been a bit behind the scenes. So it's pretty cool to see him get some of the recognition that I think.
You guys should have seen the crowd that your grandfather that I grew up with. I mean, those guys, I would see, they'd come over when interest rate futures started, and you know, and how does this work? What does Ginnie Mae stand for? You know, okay, don't worry about it. And then, you know, I'd be carding up their trades midday, and they're taking money out of that market, and they don't even know what it is. I mean, those guys could just flat out trade. It's great, and now I appreciate the compliments, but I wish you could have had a little more exposure to that generation.
Me too, honestly. We're talking about the America I grew up in and stuff. Me too. That generation sounded pretty kick-ass. All right. Well, that's what we got for Mailbag Monday on this fine Monday. A little bit of privacy, self-custody, human rights, Biden administration overreach, some market speculation on gold versus Bitcoin, a little bit of it all. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let us know. We actively read them, and it's what prepares us for the next episode. We treat this as an ongoing conversation with you guys. So give us your thoughts and feedback on what you want us to talk about next. And with that, we will see you on the interwebs. Until next time.